Hi, welcome to Success Secret Vault. We're going to have a good show today. We have been talking about different levels of having goals and desires, about reinforcing those goals and desires, and achieving success. So for the past couple of weeks, we've made a list, and you can find that list on my YouTube channel, Success Secret Vault. Tonight we're going to talk about desire, which was the number one point, the bullet point on our list. And we're going to get a little more detailed into desire and goals. We're going to have a special guest today. Her name is Leona Byrne. She is an author. The name of her book is Through the Eyes of the Soul, and she'll be on in just a few minutes. But just like anybody else, you start out with a desire. You start out with a thought. You have an idea. And once that idea is formed and you have the thought process, it creates energy. It is a piece of energy. It is a unit of energy. So energy vibrates. And when that energy vibrates, it goes out into the universe. And you begin to see people. You begin to see new ideas and more ideas on how to get your idea or your goal to manifest. So the desire is the idea. It's a unit of energy. Everything that we do is transmitted with energy. Our muscles move because of the nerves. There's energy going through our nerves and the brain. It's an impulse that says to pick this up. And those thoughts expand. The more that you think about these thoughts, the more they'll expand. So you have your desire, whatever that desire is, and I hope that everybody wrote down their desire. If you haven't written down a desire, it's a good idea to do that. A goal, something you want to achieve in life. You want to keep that realistic. It could be a new car. It could be a down payment on a house. Setting your goal too high can be a demotivator because the mind just doesn't think that far out. So you want to keep that realistic. And if you can't think of one thing, go ahead and write down 10 things, 15 things, 15 goals or desires. And they can actually, you can start out small and they can expand and go bigger and bigger and bigger. But you want to put those in perspective. You want to put those in order so you can achieve, let's say, a down payment on a car. And you go ahead and you achieve that and you put the down payment on the car. Well, the subconscious believes that that happened. If you haven't experienced it, then it's an unconscious disbelief. It's not there. But once you achieve it, then the mind says, well, I've achieved it. And then your next goal could be a little bit bigger. And because you've achieved the first goal, the mind says, well, now that you've set this goal, I believe we can get there because we accomplished the first goal, the down payment on the car. Now you want to put a down payment on a house. So the mind says, well, we've achieved this, so I don't see any problem why we couldn't achieve that. But you have to have that thought process because what you think about expands. If you set a goal and right from the beginning you say, well, that's going to be too hard, or you talk to your neighbor or a friend and they'll tell you, well, I've never seen anybody do that before. I haven't seen you do it before. What makes you think you can do it now? Well, that implants a negative. So you start to think about that negative. So what you think about expands, and you want to keep your thoughts in your direction and eliminate the negative. Because the attitude of the mind is important. If you wake up in the morning and you trip over the bedpost, that begins to expand. It's like a snowball expanding. And we'll get more into that as soon as we return. Thanks. Welcome back to Success Secret Vault. Today we have with us my good friend Leona Byrne, author of Through the Eyes of the Soul. It's a book on poetry and personal thoughts. We left off with attitude of the mind. We started off the beginning of the show with desires and goals. So I'd like to get your take on how your desires and goals developed to produce this book.
This was a work of love, and it started back in the late 90s when I was really researching and studying spirituality and growing myself. I had a difficult time through a divorce and so forth, and it prompted me to go within and study myself. But I found that I needed to go to school and educate myself to find out what I wanted to do next in life. And I continued to do research and so forth on it, by books and that way. And in 1997 I went to back to school for a year and then stopped and moved. So things started changing in my life because I decided that they were going to change. And I had limiting beliefs I discovered at that time. The primary one was that everything I did had to be hard. So I worked with that, had an affirmation about all things come to me with ease and grace. And sure enough, things got better for me, and I moved and bought a house and met somebody, got married, and was very successful at work. All because I worked on that limiting belief that was holding me back.
So you agree with thoughts or things?
Absolutely. I learned at that time also to start being more aware of what my thoughts were. I didn't realize how important that was. Thoughts are things, and they influence you and they become real. And when I started working on that aspect of my life, again, things started changing.
And so your attitude changed, the attitude of your mind.
Attitude and my thought process.
Mm-hmm.
Became more aware of what I was thinking and just changed them.
Now, did this book just all of a sudden happen, or has there been steady, small, incremental changes?
I went back to school and got my bachelor's degree and started writing. I learned what I forget synonyms were and things like that, and started playing with it and was writing a journal. So I would say that the changes in my life came, how would you say, gradually, but very impactful.
Okay.
And
so they were very meaningful at the time,
meaningful.
Of course. So how did you come up with the title?
Well, one of the things that, again, is that you observe from higher up what's going on in your life, and you can be less affected by ego. As you probably know, we're born without any preconceived notions. And as we go through life, our ego develops and the limiting beliefs develop from experiences that we have. And we deal with this. And then I went back to school and started learning things about how if we start looking and observing our thoughts and become like an observer of our thoughts, that things change. And then I learned later that this can go to the spiritual level as well. We are observing what's going on in our life, our thoughts, and our spirit within is telling us not to react and judge. And so basically it's coming from a place within, from your soul. And that's where
so through the eyes of the soul.
Yes.
Wow. I know that there's a Christian song that I really like, and it's Open the Eyes of My Heart.
Very,
and that's,
very much.
Yeah.
Right in line with that.
Yep. So what do you want in the future? Do you want this? Where are you going? Are you going to be doing some public speaking? And
well, I would like to work with kids, especially, to work with them on what peace is and how to